Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Gretchen and I am going to talk to you today about my first book review from the Booker Longlist. Now, the Longlist was announced earlier this week, and as far as my predictions go, I did not do very well. I only was able to get one of them, but I was kind of pleasantly surprised because there were actually two books that I had already read that I had not predicted that did make the long list. So the first one of those books I read a few months ago, so I feel like in order to do a proper review on that, I'm likely going to have to revisit. However, the second book, I just finished a week or so ago, so it's very fresh in my mind, and that's what we're going to talk about today. So my first review is going to be for Paul Harding's This Other Eden. Now, for those of you that aren't familiar with the premise of this book, this is basically set on a fictional island called Apple Island off the coast of Maine, and its inhabitants are a group of mixed race people, and they are forcibly removed from their homes by the government of Maine in 1912. So what this story does is it talks a little bit about the development of the island, and then it fast forwards to get into some specifics about the story of the inhabitants and ultimately what leads to the forcible removal of the people from this island. Now, before we get into any of those details, I will keep this spoiler free, but I will also say that this is based off of an actual historical event. There is an actual island off the coast of Maine called Malaga Island that was the inspiration for this story. So being that it is a part of history, you may already know some of the details. Now, as far as this book goes, I really did love this book, and I loved it for a few reasons. First of all, anytime a book is based off of history or something that has happened in real life, I absolutely love to not only read that work, but also do my own research and find out what not only the fictional history is, but also what the actual history that the events of the novel are based on. And I have to say that I am so thankful that I picked this book up and that it is nominated for the Booker, because it's gonna get this story more exposure. I had never heard of this island, and now that I am aware, I have really spent a lot of time in the past week or so following up on the history of this event, and I have to say that I absolutely adore when a piece of fiction can actually bring history to light for me. So that's one reason why I really loved this book. The second reason is that it's just beautifully written. There are moments of like such beautiful prose and writing that I literally had to like stop and reread paragraphs over and over again. And I also, although I didn't annotate, there were several of the pages where I had to dog ear just so that I could return to them and read those passages over and over again. The other thing that I loved about this book is it hit me emotionally. There are books that I read that I enjoy and I can get to the end of them and I can say, yeah, that was a fun ride. I really enjoyed that story, but they don't always stick with me. This particular story, it has stuck with me, and I have found myself returning to thinking about it since I have finished it. And it's one of those books that has just left, it's left its mark on me. And part of why I think that is obviously the subject matter. We have a civilization or a group of inhabitants of this island that they're completely happy. They're living their best life. They have everything that they need, and they are content. They're happy with the lives that they're living. And then all of the sudden, we have to go in and ruin that for them. And the reasons that we ruin it for them is not because of anything that they're doing that's wrong. It's just because of the color of their skin and the fact that they are either Black or mixed race. And that's heartbreaking to know that we, in our history, in our American history, whether it's talking about Native Americans or whether it's talking about the removal of these inhabitants from their home as a group of mixed race people, it's horrible. It's absolutely horrible that we felt the need to come in and just tear down everything that they have built. And the other thing that just angered me so much about this story in general is obviously the fact that it happened. It's horrible. But the second thing is that I am an American and I never knew about this story. It's not something that was ever brought to my attention. And I really feel like there are so many stories like this that are yet to come to the surface. And I'm so thankful that an author like Paul Harding was able to bring this to light, and hopefully others can benefit from it the way that I did. I also mentioned too that another reason why I like this book so much is because it forces me to look at additional history of the real events that have happened. Now, obviously, this is a work of fiction. Paul Harding never claims that it is actual fact. I can tell that he did some research and he is basing his story off of the things that he did research and the things that he knows. It is a work of fiction, so we have to take it for what it is. Did he take liberties? Absolutely, but it's fiction. He's not writing a nonfiction work. It's fiction, and that's what we should look at it as when we are reading it. Now, because I have taken it a step further and I have done my own research, I would urge you that if you are at all interested in that subject, to please do a little digging yourself. As a matter of fact, I stumbled upon a lecture that the current the state of Maine's archivist did related to the island of Malaga, which is what Apple Island is based off of. And it was a fascinating lecture. It was actually on YouTube, so I'll put the link below. And I encourage you to watch that. Whether you liked the book, whether you didn't like the book, it is a good watch, and it details the specifics of the actual families that lived in the island. There are a couple things I actually found kind of funny in reading the book and watching that lecture. In the book, the main, or I should say the creator or the founder of Apple Island, in the book, his name was Benjamin Honey. In real life, his name was Benjamin Darling. So I just thought that that was kind of sweet. The honey, the darling, you know, the terms of endearment. And also, there are things that the book does not go into a lot of detail about. Like, obviously, the book begins with a statement from the state of Maine and their historical society, and it outlines everything that did happen. So there really aren't any spoilers as far as what's coming. But what I will say is that watching that lecture, it really highlighted the specifics about the atrocities that did happen. I know that a lot of detail isn't really provided on that in the book. You get some of it, but you don't get, I guess, you don't get the full story. And the point of the book is, I think, to bring the story to attention, but it also has an additional character story to tell. So Harding is putting personality and breathing life into the inhabitants of this island. And obviously we didn't know these people, so that's a complete work of fiction at that point in time. This story, it does get some things right when we talk about the reasons why, but it's all kind of loosely based on it. We also, I'm sorry, I'm just trying, it's a lot to think about when you're reviewing and you have all of these emotions about a book, and there are a lot of things that you want to talk about and you want to make sure that you get right. But I will just say, if you are at all interested in the book, if you take it as a work of fiction, I think that you're going to absolutely love the story. I think that it's going to touch you. You're going to be emotionally invested with these people, and it's actually heartbreaking, paired with the fact that Paul Harding is a gorgeous writer. It is definitely worth a read. But as I said, make sure, if you're interested in this at all, that you follow up with the history, because it's going to be a gut punch. And I think that you'll be pleasantly surprised with how much more you enjoy the book after you do that research. As a matter of fact, when I had first finished the book, I had I think previously given it 4 stars, but since I've learned more and I've started to do my own research, I decided to up my rating to 4.5 stars because of what this book did for me. And I think that that's what great literature is about. Sometimes what a book can do for you is not limited to what you learn between the pages. It's how you take that book and you use it in your everyday life. And this particular book has enlightened me, and it has allowed me to learn more outside of the pages. So I thank you, Paul Harding. This was an excellent book, and I'm curious to see, as I start to read some of the other books from the long list, where this ends up. it being the first read, I'm not sure. I hope that they all are at the level of this one for me, but we'll see. As I read the additional books from the long list, I will go ahead and do reviews on those as well. And hopefully at the end, hopefully it's prior to the shortlist being announced, I will do a ranking video to kind of see what I think my shortlist predictions will be based off of what I read. So thanks again for bearing with me and sticking through this, and I hope to see you again on my next prediction, or not my next prediction, but my next review. And thanks so much for spending some time with me. And if you liked the video, go ahead and hit like, subscribe if you're so willing, and I hope to see you guys next time. Bye.